you run 50 yards to the end zone so you can do a move. You know, I don't know about them guys. I've only got so many 50-yard sprints in me to start with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use one up going down to do a celebratory move. That I think that was what they put me out there for, was to play defense.
Step into the Fieldhouse, your front row seat to legendary victories and untold stories. Hey, I'm your host, Lance Lunner, breaking down sports from the inside out, along with co-host Jimmy Lackey. It's more than just a game. It's the Fieldhouse Podcast. Hey, welcome into the Fieldhouse Podcast. Glad to see you back here. It's a production of the Kids Inc. Sports Network. We got our co-host here, Jimmy Lackey. He is the CEO and everything here at Kids Inc. I'm Lance Lunner. Glad to be along for the ride. Jimmy, it's been a couple of weeks. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. I got a new granddaughter.
Well, yeah, let's hear it.
June.
How do the names in your family come about? How do they pick
mostly
names?
biblical. A lot of them are biblical, very much so. June Elizabeth Powell. She was born on the 14th. 7 pounds, 2 ounces, 20 inches long, and her little brother has not acknowledged her yet. He thinks
How old's little bro?
He's about 21 months. He'll be 2 in April.
Well, he lost a lot of attention.
Jayla has Teddy will be, Teddy was born last May, so he's still a baby. He just calls her Teddy. He thinks that's Teddy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And doesn't have anything to do with her.
Really?
No.
Wow, that happens.
Zero, none.
Well, you lose all that attention. So
big time, yeah. There's a new game in town.
Congratulations. How many is that now?
That makes 5. So here's the cool thing. I was the 5th grandchild, first boy. She's the 5th grandchild, first girl.
Really? So finally a girl. Wow.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
I want to introduce
we
my
got a
friend.
special
Yeah,
one today.
I
Go right
do.
ahead.
So this is our super fan.
Yeah.
We have a couple.
I don't know if
We've got
anybody's a super fan of the Fieldhouse.
Well, this guy is. We've got 2 or 3 guys that I run into all the time that are saying stuff to me, but I don't get any more information than I do from my friend Carlton Baugus from Dumas, Texas. Carlton was probably about 3 years older than me growing up, and I was scared to death of him, as you can just look at him and see why.
Big man.
Yeah, and back then he was a big man amongst the rest of us little runts, and so. But I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for him. We've been friends a long time. We have family collectives in common, and so we get to see one another from time to time. But I thought, you know what? Let's bring one of our listeners on and get his perspective on sports and the world and other things.
We got to get real right away. That's what we like to do here. So, what are we just bad at? What are we terrible at here on the podcast? You know what I mean? What are we bad at, Carlton?
Well,
better
I don't
swallow
know
that coffee
I could really
first.
think of any one thing.
There's so many.
I think y'all need to do more, just you and Jimmy.
Yeah, we like those, yeah.
I have nothing against bringing somebody in, obviously.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't be here. But, when you two sit and hash it out, sometimes it's kind of like, three's a crowd sometimes.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I like those episodes.
I like that.
We've been able, we were talking before here, I'm so glad we had Leslie on early. I was asking if Shauna came with him because I was going to have Shauna sit in, and I was telling about, how Heather got to sit out there and watch, and
it was very cool.
Those are fun times, when we have our folks in.
Jalen
Conyers was outstanding here recently, and
he just loved it. You know what I mean? He really did.
He was a natural too.
Yeah,
he's such a natural.
He's got a career in broadcasting.
Yeah,
there's no doubt. Hope he makes it in the NFL first with the combine coming up. But I think we need to kick it off. This is our 35th. We have a tradition here, as you well know, Carlton. Whatever show we have going on, I don't know what we're going to do when we hit 100. You know what I mean? But maybe we'll go back, and you can't pick the one
repeat.
you did. Yeah. But anyway, it's 35, and we pick a 35 number. It could be a teammate of yours back in the day, one of our teammates. When we tried to play, and then or somebody famous, you know what I mean, that has really impacted the sports world. So do you have a 35?
I do.
Okay, let's hear it.
He was a teammate of mine.
Sweet.
In Dumas. 35, his name was Scott Hutchison. He was our running back, fullback in my senior year.
Very cool.
And
tough as nails.
I haven't looked at the record book recently. At one time, he held the record, Texas UIL, any classification for carries in a game.
How many?
60.
Whoa.
Now, I think
Wait,
somebody
60?
Yes, I think somebody maybe tied him, and there might be a guy. I don't know. There could be a guy that's done more.
60 carries.
But that was against level land.
Wow.
And
Carlton, how many plays would probably run off? Did you guys offensive plays that game? I mean, did he have 95% of the carries? 95, 100%?
He did. I would say, I don't know.
I didn't even know this. I love it.
I would say maybe, I don't know, 80?
Yeah.
Maybe 80, maybe 90.
Golly. That's cool. How many passes were thrown in that game back in the day?
Oh, not many.
Yeah.
Not many. When he was just, and he didn't have, it wasn't over 300 yards, I don't believe, but he's good for 4 or 5.
Yeah. Wow.
I hadn't heard that.
How sore did he have to be on Saturday morning?
That's going to leave a mark.
I don't care how tough you are. 60 carries. That's amazing. I didn't know
I was left tackle.
Yeah.
The left guard was Brian Millard.
Yeah.
And he was 2 years younger than me. He was, I guess, a year older than you,
a year older than
Jimmy.
me. Brian was a year
Did you know he'd be an NFLer when you were playing next to him?
I did not. Because at practice, he's 6'4", 225. You don't see that you don't think about a sophomore 6'4", 225. You don't think that guy's going to play University of Texas, start 3 years, and go play, New Jersey Generals, and then he went to Seattle for 9.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't see
Amazing career.
But somebody did.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
But
you said you had 2 35s. Do you have another one?
I did. It's old school.
Okay.
Calvin Hill.
Ooh.
That's mine. That's mine.
You guys are Cowboy fans here. Okay, go ahead, Calvin Hill.
Calvin Hill, and I'm going to go back, Randy Davis.
Yep.
Randy wore 35 from Dumas, and always had a lot of admiration for Randy. Randy was the biggest guy in our class and played fullback and ran back in the backfield, and anything we did, we just pushed Randy to the front because he was
he was the guy.
He was
cool.
He was the biggest guy that we had around back then, and he didn't measure up to Brian or Carlton. But
what number did you wear, by the way?
79.
79. That's a good tackle.
Yeah. Calvin Hill was mine. That's who
Calvin
I had.
Hill. All right. Obviously, Kevin Durant, right now today is the 35 of all sports. When I was growing up in Colorado, we played I wasn't any good, but we played pond hockey. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. A lot of, just guys who did other sports because I was like a wrestler. But anyway, so there was a lot of hockey fans there. There was a guy for the Montreal Canadiens named, he was a goalie, Tony Esposito.
Oh, yeah.
And he wore number 35. His brother, Phil Esposito, was obviously the Pittsburgh Penguin, a lot more popular. So, but yeah, that was my 35. There's some baseball guys who have had that as well. But I played fantasy baseball. Growing up. We had an umpire here, Carlton, who did spring training games trying to get into the league. And he never quite got that far.
Right.
But anyway, I grabbed him one time when he came back and said, "Hey, who's shining down there?" A guy named Frank Thomas was an unknown at that time. So I got him on my fantasy team for very cheap. But he wore 35.
Big Frank Thomas.
Yeah, big Frank Thomas.
Guess who? I didn't even look in the book.
Who?
Who do you think the face is? I wouldn't have guessed it.
I don't know.
Phil Necro.
Ooh, wow. Phil Necro. I wouldn't.
Calvin Hill's not even on here.
I wouldn't even guess Phil Necro. He's got to be on there. Calvin Hill, doesn't he?
He's not listed in the what I call the honorable mentions. No, Tony Esposito's mentioned.
Yeah. Tony's a good one. Hey, one quick story though. I was on a plane once, and now my memory's pretty much gone, but I covered covered over 1,000 high school football games. Mm-hmm. So all these numbers, and things, 38 years at the Globe News. I'm on a plane once, and I'm sitting next to a former Wheeler Mustang, okay? And we're chatting, they go, "Oh, yeah, I know who you are. You wrote about the Wheeler Mustangs. They call themselves Black Death when they were on that roll, They just brought a sign, Carlton, about this big. There were no banners. And they just put this little sign up on their stadium that said, "Black Death is here." And that was the only poster you had.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was our defense. But anyway, and so the guy goes, yeah, do you remember us? I go, yeah, number 35, Toby Collins. I just happen to remember one Mustang on that team. Toby Collins was his name. And the guy looks at me like, who are you? You know, how can you remember that? That's the only guy. I didn't ever tell him that, you know what I mean? But yeah, 35. Let's give Toby Collins a shout out. I tell you what, that guy could flat out play football for the Wheeler Mustangs in the 80s.
Black Death was
the Black Death is here, yeah, and they just had this little, yeah.
Carlton. I remember when Dumas was referred to as the Black Plague.
Yeah.
Remember that? Mm-hmm. I also remember, and I'm pretty sure, Todd, if I'm wrong, you can call me out on this, but I'm pretty sure. I'll just say Todd. He was a year younger than me, and I'm going to leave it at that. I won't call his last name out. I'm pretty sure he's the one that went out and crawled out on the bridge as you're going just almost to Masterson, the train bridge, and painted on there, "Welcome to Hell, home of the Dumas Demons," as whoever was coming to play us would be coming to town. He spray painted it on the side of the deal. I mean, it was there for a long time, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, "Welcome to Hell, home of the Dumas Demons."
Yeah. What's on your mind today?
Well, I want to let Carlton talk a little bit. I asked him to do this, 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, we appreciate you,
And
Carlton.
I'm going to even go back and say thanks for coming today. I had a little hiccup on Wednesday. I needed to go to our Hereford office, so I appreciate you
Not a problem.
sticking back a couple days
Glad
for
to
me.
be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. But I said, talk to me about things you want to talk about. And one of the things we wanted to talk about was high school athletics and where UIL classes are and, all the excessive travel that goes on with high school sports these days, playoff qualifications, celebrations after plays, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just open it up. Throw some of that out, Carlton, and talk a little bit about some of those things on your mind.
Excessive celebration to me need to be toned down. I'm old school. Me and you, we're old school.
We are.
If you intercept a pass, you run 50 yards to the end zone so you can do a move.
Yeah.
I don't know about them guys. I've only got so many 50-yard sprints in me to start with.
Yeah.
I'm not going to use one up going down to do a celebratory move. That I think that was what they put me out there for, was to play defense. You want to slap a high five or, hey buddy, slam somebody on the helmet, but when they just run out and
do the pose.
I think that's excessive.
Yeah. Jimmy, your thought on that?
It's gotten out of hand. And I don't know what's a flag, and I don't even know what levels get flags. I know NFL, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
They come down and put on a whole show, and they've scripted them. Do they practice? Is that a Thursday practice thing they do? I don't know.
It's a locker room deal, I'm sure, yeah.
But, you're seeing a little more of it at the college level.
Yeah.
They're getting, let me rephrase it, they're getting away with more of it at the college level. Mm-hmm. They don't do the thing as long as what you'd see in an NFL game, but it's there. I think they still shut it down pretty quick at the high school level.
Yeah.
But you still see a little bit. Did you see the deal with K-State and Kansas basketball where they went up for the rebound and they wouldn't let go? And Self was even telling them, his guy, I don't know why we did that. But they refused. The two guys that tied the ball up refused to let go
of the ball.
They wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
This went on for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Off the floor, and Self's going, I don't know why we did that. You'd have to ask him.
Yeah.
He thought it was dumb.
I can see the emotions of that particular game.
Yeah.
Where you're
sure, but 30 seconds later, really?
Yeah, no, I agree. There's some stuff that, I'm with Carlton. I used to be totally against it, Carlton. I've kind of changed.
Yeah.
I don't get thrilled by it. Remember there for a while we had all the touchdown dances for the wide receivers.
Right.
They kind of nixed that. My problem is when it is flagged, some of the stuff they don't flag is worse sometimes. You know what I mean? I don't see any consistency there. Now, if you're over a player disrespecting him, bowing up, standing over him, then I think it's automatic. I think any disrespect of another player or another team,
absolutely,
I think that's a flag automatically. So I've kind of just accepted now. You know what I mean? I'm with you. I find it ridiculous.
I think they're pretty good at doing that.
Yeah.
Pretty much if you taunt somebody.
Yeah.
You
The
turn
taunting.
around and start pointing, or you
High
get right in the guy's face or stand over him.
It all trickles down, NFL to college
It's
to
a
high
flag.
school. You are so right. So you're going to see some high school But I will say this: if I pick off a pass in the NFL, I'm pretty dang excited.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't have anything against those. I think it's ridiculous that they allow them to go pose, and you got 11 guys now running down there.
Exactly.
Not just one.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of a team thing. So I'm okay with that. If it was just one guy doing his own
Right.
thing. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's a little bit out of control, but the control I don't like is they flag some and don't flag others. I don't think it's kind of like pass interference.
Right.
You really can't tell.
There's no consistency there.
Yeah. So I'm okay with that.
Let's talk about that travel issue. You know, all the lengths that people have
Right.
to go. You know,
Yeah.
and we're a little bit. Well, we're not a little bit. We are very isolated in terms of density and numbers when you get to the classifications, because it takes a ways to get somewhere to play somebody a particular classification level, same as some of our teams here. But talk a little bit about that.
Well, I don't, the classification deal, I'm still trying to get used to the people that are in my football district aren't in my basketball district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if baseball's the same way or not. I'm not sure about that. But every 2 years they reclassify, right?
Realignment, yes.
I wonder, would you start there, and do you think is that too often or not often enough?
Yeah, I've always thought that too. I thought, because I grew up in Colorado, so realignment just freaked me out at first. Like, wait,
Right.
every 2 years. I thought it could have been every 4 years. Up here, it could easily be every 4 years, Carlton.
Right.
I have talked to Mr. Breitup about that, the UIL director, who, by the way, is retiring this year. We need to try to get him up here one day.
You're
Anyway,
the one with the connection. Get him.
yeah, he's a great guy, really good guy.
This guy's got a Heisman vote. He's got connections.
Yeah, well, but Mr. Breitup's written several books as well, but very intelligent man. But his thing, Carlton, is, believe it or not, in the Metroplex, those schools change that much in 2 years. Some of them do. So, fair or not, they've got this whole state to deal with, from the 42 people up in Booker now to the 7,000 to 8,000 at Allen. You know what I mean? That's almost impossible.
Right.
But anyway, his thought was that, that's what he explained to me. Because I'm with you, 4 years up here would be fine.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm with you. But just so you know, this will be the first year. We had it in volleyball already. No regional basketball tournaments, okay, coming up. So you'll let's say I'm playing you that day. We just like a playoff game in by district, we'll just find a gym to play in, for the regional semis and the regional finals and the state semis. That's the one that blows me away, where it's just a neutral site game between.
It's not preset. It's not predetermined.
No, but what they're trying to do, Carlton, is eventually, like they do in football now, who's in Division I and Division II before it starts. So that cuts the travel a little bit down, or you can predict it. And so they're going to try to get that eventually. Right now it's not. So, for instance, let's just take the District 3 5A girls we have right now. Emerald High Tascosa, ranked 4 and 5 in the state, they will be Division I. Lubbock Monterey, ranked number 1 in the state in 5A, is in Division II, because they are smaller than Emerald High and Tascosa. Obviously, that's the math. So once the district season is over, then you just put the 4 teams there. It doesn't matter if you're district champ or whatever. You just go in that 4 spots. So you don't really know until the final day of the district season. So I find that very confusing.
It is.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
I'm with you.
Exactly.
They're going to try to get a grip on that and do the basketball beforehand. That could take a couple of realignments. But that's what I know
Think about
that.
this. Just think about this. What if West Plains High School didn't exist? Where would Canyon and Randall be right now? Because of the growth pattern between Emerald and Canyon that's in that Canyon ISD. I mean, there's housing districts going up and housing developments going up everywhere out there. And there's all that migration to the west side of the loop. Think about if West Plains didn't exist right now, where are all those kids going to be? Technically, they'd be at Randall. Is Randall going to be a 6A at that point in time? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's how fast growth happens. And you take that to a Frisco or to a place like that. The one exception is Allen. Allen did this by design. My daughter and son-in-law lived down there for a while, and so I asked a lot of questions when we'd see folks down there. But they're landlocked. Allen is, as I understand it, is landlocked, and they did that so they would have one high school. and could have that powerhouse high school. They built that monster stadium. You could see that from Kennedy and Luke's place.
Yeah, yeah.
And they built that big facility. Now McKinney's got a nice facility. That's where they have the D2 championships there in football now.
Melissa,
just
you can go that whole thing.
But all that area out there is just blown up. I can remember when you could drive. I remember when you could drive from Denton to McKinney and not see anything.
Yeah.
And now you got a stoplight.
Yeah,
every
that's
mile.
part of that thing you were talking about. That growing so fast.
Those housing developments dictate.
I will say this, Carlton and Jimmy. It's a flat out shame that Allen is allowed to have 7,000 students. For this alone, participation. What do you want most out of your high school? You want kids to participate, enjoy their experience. So let's say, oh my gosh, we cut that in half. They are landlocked, but you could still build high school there. 3,500 students? Do the math. I mean, we have, I don't want to say wrong, but it's around 2,200 for our AISD schools. Think of you would double the participation in football, band, everything. What you're doing there is a crying shame. It really is at Allen to have that many students in one high school and allowing it to be participation that limited for those kids. So what are they going to do? They're going to go home and get in trouble. You know how good you have to be to make the 12 on their boys basketball team or volleyball team?
Yeah.
My gosh. It's ridiculous.
Allen has more people in their band. The escadrille, is that what they call it? Allen escadrille?
Something, yeah.
They have more people in that than goes to school at Dumas High School. It's like 700 or 800 members.
That's
Yeah.
Great point.
I went
to
a game,
yeah.
Plano and Allen. Plano Senior High, just because my cousin was a coach at Plano. I went to that game. They sat in one section up there of that stadium, and they come down for halftime. It takes them the whole third quarter to get back up in their seats. So that's the numbers too.
Yeah,
you got 700 people in your band.
Yeah, one of the girls in our wedding, her child was in that band, and I mean, you're talking about practice and preparation and all that stuff. It's serious stuff. It's like a job.
Yeah, what Allen does is great. I mean, the wrestling program. You go to any program.
Yep.
And they're competing for the state, I just think.
But you are right, limited on participation.
If you're the superintendent, Matt, you got to look at the quality of life for your students, and that simply means cutting that school in half. And you're still, I think I looked it up a year ago or so. They would be like 12 or 13th still largest school in Texas. The two of them would be in the top 15 anyway. So. Well, you're still a massive school.
I mean, put this in perspective. They could divide that into 4 high schools and have 4 Caprock, Paladero-sized high schools.
I will say this. I think it's kind of cool in our area with West Plains. You're keeping all those in 4A. Lubbock Cooper's doing that now with the new school there, Liberty. They'll be in the 4A small school, 5A. Friendship built a new school. They will now be out of 6A. So I think there's some good vision in our area of making the experience at high school not feel like a college, so much of a college experience. So I think they're doing a good job with that. I really believe that. So, But my saddest thing for me with this numbers game is you no longer have a state semifinal basketball. When you go down to the state basketball tournament, it's all finals because you're doubling the number of state champions. Yeah. So you got one and done in there. We've seen teams barely survive that state semifinal because they were nervous as all get out in those big places and then play great in the finals. You know what I mean? They get used to it. That's not going to happen anymore. It's you show up, do your 20 minutes of shooting, and go.
Out the door you go.
So, I'm sad we lost that.
Yeah.
I really am. I think that experience of going to state 3 or 4 days down there, not just, hey, show up at 10:20 and you're done at 12:20 and back home at 8 o'clock. You know what I mean?
It's like rubber stamping it, and you're in, you're out, and let's go to the next one.
And then Jimmy and I have talked about it too, Carlton, and you were hardcore high school, Texas high school football. We used to know the state champions each year in all the classifications. Now, if you can name them, more power to you. Yeah. You know what I mean? They just happened in December. Yeah. I'm sad we missed that too.
Well, there wasn't but 4, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5. But it was a badge of honor. Yeah, and there for a while it was just 2.
Dumas was 3A, and there was only one class above us, and that's 4A.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you had 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, that's it.
Talking about Brian Millard, his senior year, Brian goes down to the state track meet and sets a record in the shot put through at 63 foot. Michael Carter from Dallas Carter throws at 75 foot. Played for the 49ers, threw for the Olympics in the United States. But Brian set a record in 3A, throwing at 63 feet. And then that kid in the 4A throws at 75 feet. Holy smoke.
Yeah, that's still.
Brian was a beast.
He was.
Yeah.
By then,
yeah,
it was easier to see.
Oh, yeah.
That he's got something that they're looking for.
Yeah.
When he was a sophomore, not so much, just a big kid. But by then, when you're talking, when you can get across that circle with that shot put like that, and then explode like he did, there's some power.
Yeah, there's some athleticism there.
I'm gonna have to put reins on you too on this next subject. Sod poodles, go. Y'all talk about the sod poodles.
What? I mean, what's the vision?
I don't know.
We have
a
new manager.
The Hodgetown, and I mean the team. I love it. I love to go, but I'm curious about this is the second year that they've had to do a lot of modifications to the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
is that something that comes from the league?
Yeah, you nailed it. The major, for instance, the netting that goes all the way down now. Major League Baseball implemented that in all minor league parks.
Okay.
I think they gave them 3 years to do it. The Sod Poodles waited till the last year to get it in. But yeah, that was mandated that you are not allowed to have a minor league team if you do not have that all the way there. The other stuff, I think Tony Enzer would be able to answer that a lot better than I would. But they just want to upgrade the park.
Right.
The best they can, you know what I mean? And then one other, it's much needed. Basically, when you went down underneath, the locker rooms for the umpires, for anybody involved, was all male-oriented. You know what I mean? So you have female assistant coaches now. You have female umpires trying to make it up there. So that's part of what they did as well, Carlton, underneath. Made facilities available for gender.
I think that's a good thing.
Oh, it was it was long overdue.
I mean, I love going to them games. One of the main things I like about it is when they get settled in and the game starts, the ribbon scoreboard, the music. Then I stop and say, I can't be in Amarillo, Texas. This just don't happen.
I'm with you.
But
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. When you walk in there, you don't believe you're in Amarillo.
I'm proud of it.
I love it. I love it. I've got to know a few of those players, managers more than that. You know what I mean? But it's a brutal world that they're in. The pressure to make it to the next level. Some handle it, some don't. You know what I mean? And I've got to broadcast a couple of those games. But I will say this: I'm a half-season ticket holder. Okay, so I have a right to say this. This isn't just a whiny little old man up here crying.
I know where we're going with this, and I'm on with
Concessions, Carlton? No. I don't need to pay $7.50 for my Mountain Dew.
Right.
Okay? Mm-hmm. That is gouging. Okay?
It is.
I don't, you know what I mean? That's ridiculous.
It
okay? Is. $12 for a Coors Light, whatever, in a can. You know what I mean? For 20 ounces, whatever. No. Let's dial it down. I went to the Masters, brought back somebody a sleeve of Master golf balls.
I don't know who that was.
Yeah. And went in and was, I like to buy the sod pole hats and stuff like that and things like that. The golf balls in Hodgetown were more than when I got in Augusta. So let's just dial that back a little bit, and maybe you don't have an opinion on that.
I agree. I mean, I've bought a few Coors Lights over there, and it's too high.
Yeah, I mean, you're still making a gob of money.
They are.
If you're charging $5 a beer or $5 a Mountain Dew, you know what I mean?
I wish I could remember. Somebody went to something recently, and it seems like it was one of the state championship games, where a hot dog was $2, Coke was $2, something, and then they were talking about going to Hodgetown, and why?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, why is because they can because people do buy at Carlton, and then I will say this: I see more people dialing back, in our little section, where they'll bring, you can bring in empty water bottles. They do have water there that, that you can do. So things like that. But that's my only gripe. But overall, it is a home run deluxe. The stadium is gorgeous. They did it right.
Oh, that's
I'm
awesome.
proud of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You walk in there and you're proud to be a part of that, and they do a great job of promotions and all that. The drones. I don't know if you saw. I think you're the one who saw both.
Nights.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, outstanding.
Yeah.
And then turned around on Monday night, and those guys were on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And that was that group.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was that impressive, though, what they do. And to get to have opportunities to bring venues. That was the weekend of Panhandle Sports Hall of Fame, by the way.
Yeah.
And Sammy Reeves and Don and all them were staying at the embassy. And, Don's situation, they didn't get out, but they could see it from the hotel.
Cool.
And,
Yeah.
so somebody from out of town getting an opportunity to sit out in front of the hotel and watch something like that across the street. You're right. Who would ever thought we'd have a AA ballpark just like that sitting in our downtown when we were so used to the Dilla Villa.
Right.
It'll always forever be the Dilla Villa to me. That's what we were accustomed to back in the Gold Sox days. I can remember when Cecil Vinhouse, and Carlton knows Cecil, told us if we won our last 3 baseball games, we get to go to the Gold Sox game. And I think if we'd have lost them all, they'd have still took us. But we did win those last 3 games.
Cool.
I was probably first or second grade playing baseball for the first time. We got to go to a Gold Sox game in that stadium.
It's kind of a meeting place of Amarillo as well, Carlton. I like that. You see a lot of people just chit-chatting, and you really could care less who's winning or losing. They just want to be there and enjoy an evening out. You know what I mean? So I think that's been a real blessing for Amarillo.
I see a lot of corporate places in Amarillo doing their like a couple of nights in the summer.
Yeah.
Employee appreciation and whatnot.
Yeah, I like.
And it's built perfect. That one place down in left field in the corner with all the tables, and it's a perfect place to do that.
I will say this about the Dilla Villa. As a sports writer, you climbed up on the roof and got to watch it from the roof, and it was a little shaky. It'd blow in the wind, things like that, and it was dicey getting up there. Trust me. But once you're there, the view of the game was amazing. Yeah. You are on top of the game. You could see right away if a ball was going to go out, if that outfielder did not get the proper jump. The poor guys who do the radio at Hodgetown, Carlton,
past first
they
base.
got you behind first base. And so they're guessing up and down. No perspective. They do such an amazing job to sit there and actually call the game like that. It's impressive. But yeah. So they didn't think about the media.
No perspective.
That's the only one.
Quick story. Babe Ruth baseball in Dumas. After I got out of school, I was helping a guy coach a team. Have a rotation. You're going to umpire some games. If you coach a team, you're going to be set up to do an umpire.
Yeah.
Okay, this one game I get stuck with behind the plate. Well, the guy up in the press box, there's a couple of guys up there. One of them's Joel Dumas, Russell's dad.
Yep.
This other guy, he's slaying me. He's killing me on my calls. I mean,
is
I
he
don't
yelling
know
at you while you're calling?
Well, a little bit.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I don't know that so much. I didn't really notice him. But Joel said, I think during this inning, during the half inning, I'm going to run down and tell Carlton just to come up to the press box and umpire the rest of the game from up here. Well, this guy bites on this. He goes, well, you can't call a baseball game from up here. Joel said, no, and you can't either. So there you go.
Really good. Touche.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a
Did
joke.
you ever umpire?
Oh, Lord, no. Not baseball.
Yeah,
No.
I did.
No,
Yeah.
refereed basketball back in the day when it was just two-man crew. I was in the best shape of my life when I refereed basketballs in college.
Yeah.
It was a good gig,
Yeah.
good pay.
Yeah.
You remember? I don't know if you remember Richard Ortiz.
Yeah, well, of course.
I used to referee a lot with Richard Ortiz.
Yeah.
He taught a class at WT. That's how I got involved.
He's a legend.
Dad was refereeing back then too, so I got to call some games with Dad. But I'll tell you where I would go every time if they would call, and I spent a lot of time at both of them, either Phillips or Channing. When Dale Blatt was at Channing and Denny Dawson was at Phillips, if either one of them would call, I would go because I'd get a couple of JV games and a couple of varsity games. and they'd pay you $25 a game back in 1981. That was a lot of money, and 35 cents a mile. And both of them fed you chicken fried steak after you got done. That homemade good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's cool.
Dale would call me regularly back then, and I would go up there every time he would call. And so same with Denny, I'd go every time. Those small towns, Phillips Blackhawks, man, they would take care of you.
Jill Rankins.
Oh yeah, and that's how I met Jill back in the day. Was way back in those days. She's a little older than me, but her and her sister were just revered out of there. And that's back in the day when I met her. And
I do a radio show. She's going to come on today.
Oh, good.
Yeah, and so we get to talk.
You tell her I said hello.
I'm glad you brought that up real quick, Carlton. I want your opinion. Speaking of high school, Jill has a young lady named Aaliyah Chavez from Lubbock, Monterey, #1 ranked girls player in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
The rumor is between $1 and $2 million for her NIL and a house possibly for her family. What do you think of that negotiating now that a coach has to go through? How could you survive that?
Nick Saban elected not to because he says this has become a game I'm unfamiliar with. This isn't what I learned to coach. So, it is what it is now. It's not going nowhere, right?
I agree. Yeah, I think it'll be monitored or
Yeah.
maybe corralled a little bit.
I think they need to rein it in a little bit. I think maybe if you can have there's a cap in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Even though it's ballooned,
Yeah.
but you can still have some maximums and maybe need some minimums too.
Yeah,
to
yeah,
justify
no, I agree.
the maximums.
Yeah.
But I just don't. It's okay. So I'm sure Tech is the one offering her this.
Well, actually,
Who's in the running for to get her?
As I understand it, well, she's announced this, but Oklahoma, Texas, so we know Texas has all the money down there. Texas Tech has raised it, according to all
Mm-hmm.
the people I've talked to down there. Pretty good sources too, who would know. Are we in this league? You know what I mean?
Right.
Excuse me, UCLA, and then South Carolina. Now, South Carolina has the cachet where, couple-time defending national champ. So you're going to the elite team in college basketball right now. So I don't know if they would have to pay as much.
Right.
But those are the 5 right now, as I understand it.
It'd be hard.
It
to
would
not
change.
Go to South Carolina.
Oh yeah, I would love it for Krista if she could get it down at Tech because they are struggling, not only Big 12 wise. Now they have won a couple in a row, nicely done, but also attendance wise, it's just not there what it used to be. I'm telling you, caller, she packs gyms in Amarillo.
Mm-hmm.
In Amarillo, at Texas Tech, you would get 5,000 to 7,000 more per game.
I believe you
just
would.
to go watch her. So her money is well worth what they're going to try to pay her, in my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does she want to go outside of Lubbock? A lot of kids do. Just try something new. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's a lot of money, though, to be talking to a 17, 18-year-old.
I wish Tech would get her.
Yeah.
Because I can remember watching Krista when she played at WT coaching, and never met her. But I think she's a good coach. I think she's a good person.
He knows her best.
I would classify Krista as a dear friend. I think she's one of the greatest leaders of young women I've ever been around. I think she shows that grace and that class in everything that she does. Her daughter, that apple didn't fall far from the tree. Bryn is the same way. I went to Bryn's wedding here in this last summer, and Bryn's mom's the coach of a Big 12 basketball team. And you go to this wedding and you're thinking, and it's outdoors at a real nice venue out at Ransom Canyon. This Ransom Canyon where her grandparents live had this really nice venue out there. But they had 2 food trucks. We got to go pick what food truck we want to line, Mexican food or barbecue. Afterwards, there's an ice cream truck. Brian walks up and he's in his jacket and his boots and jeans. It's not, all fluff and all this other stuff. It was typical Krista and Brian and Bryn, laid back. Everybody's welcome. Don't feel like you have to come dressed in a coat and tie.
That's cool.
And that's what I really admire most about her is how grounded she is. I mean, she played on that national championship team in '93 with Swoop. She's the one that fed her most of her points.
Yeah.
Great assist player. She's a teammate, and she's a team player. And there's so much more to it. And at the end of the day, she's going to have to win. And, boy, this, if she could get this kid and it lights up some enthusiasm around her program, and on top of maybe helps get another recruit or two to come in and play with that kiddo, I would love for Krista to get that opportunity because she deserves it. She did a big favor to us at WT for 7 years, then went to UTA and had great success there when they had not been on the radar very much. And so I hope she gets that opportunity. It's tough. Think about it. Take Chavez off the plate here. Do you want to come to Lubbock? Do you want to go to Austin? Do you want to go to Houston? Do you want to go
L.A.?
L.A. It's hard to recruit to Lubbock, Texas, just like it is hard to recruit to Canyon, Texas at our level when some of those bigger metropolitan areas have so many more things to offer, the eyeballs to the kid, the eye candy to the kiddo that's trying to go there, and it makes it tough. And, Lubbock's not a destination spot, and that makes her job even harder.
Yeah.
And so, like Lance said, for them to get an attendance boost and rock that facility like back in the day when Natalie and Jolie and Brooke and all them were playing down there. We used to go to a lot of those games. Golly, if we got a ticket up in the end zone, we were happy.
Yeah.
Those are fun times, and I wish nothing but that for Krista because she deserves it.
Right.
Yeah, that would be spectacular. I will say that it's not from a lack of effort. Leah has a sister who's like an 8th or 7th or 8th grader, and Krista was at her first game watching her sister play.
Right.
So she's putting in the due diligence. But bottom line is, you guys know how it works.
Yep.
Yeah, the kid, something happens. If you feel like family, I want to stay with my family here so they can just watch me every day. Things like that. You just don't know what the final. Somebody that elite with that final decision is, and it may be to go to South Carolina, to win a national title.
You don't know her personally to know that she's going to be equipped to handle, to make the decision, and to accept it when it starts. Because there's a lot to that.
Yeah, there's a lot to it. And she did say flat out that she was going to wait until the end of the season, the last possible minute to make that decision.
Here's the thing, take any kid. They show up at college in this day and time, any student athlete, on day one, is that coach going to be there next year, the year after? Coaches can move too. And then you got this portal thing going on. Here are the things with a kid like Chavez, and I don't know her, don't know her family, don't know anything about it, other than what I see on the highlights and highlight reels. One injury, and it could tank the whole thing. I'm living proof of that. Not that I was a great athlete, but you get an eye put out, it changes your world.
Right.
You get a career-ending injury. What are you going to do then? And how does that affect all the people that poured into those dollars to get a child like that in there? And all of a sudden, that's all wiped off the face of the earth. It could happen a freshman year. It could happen a junior year. And then the last thing with them, as I understand it, mom and dad, or at least dad, is pretty involved in her world and has really helped propel her to get to this point. When you go to college, you're not mom and dad's kid anymore. You're that coach's kid, and you belong to that college, and you got a job now.
Right.
And can you differentiate that? And that's when I think the choice really becomes critical for her.
Right. Because
I think hometown has a lot more advantages for her in that setting than going away where you really don't know anybody else. And all of a sudden, I don't care who the coach. You go to Don Staley's place, guess who the boss is?
Don Staley.
You dang right. Well, Krista Gerlich's going to be the boss too.
Right.
And anybody else in the mix, anybody in one of those coaches, you better be able to go and live by their rules, because at the end of the day, you're just one of the players, and you're going to be a key player.
And Dad's probably not invited to all the practices.
No.
If you're signing somebody for a mill, though, they do have a little say in what their life.
That's the change in the landscape of college athletics today.
And some coaches don't have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Let's rapid fire. What else you got?
Okay, both of you. Let's pick winners by the time this posts next week.
Oh.
AFC, NFC championship games. I've got mine. I'm going to go with Buffalo and Philadelphia, and I'm going to go with Buffalo to win it all.
Wow. Okay. Carlton.
I would go with Buffalo and Washington, but I'll go with Buffalo to win it all.
His name's Patrick Mahomes, man.
I knew that was coming.
You know what I mean? I mean, I'm Chiefed out too. I'm a Broncos fan. I don't like the Chiefs.
Well, I do.
Never
I love
have.
the Chiefs.
I don't like them at all. But
They've already had 3 personal foul penalties before the game ever started. That's what I keep reading.
The calls have gotten ridiculous, though. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sad. You know, that's a great athlete. You know, but just call it fair. But I can't bet against Mahomes until it actually happens. You know what I mean? So I have to go Mahomes. I think Washington has a really good chance, but I think Philly at home just edges them. You know, I mean that home vibe they'll get, and then I'm going to go the Chiefs to three-peat until you beat them. You got to beat them.
I agree.
They're the man.
I agree, but
They're
they're
the
just something.
No, they're not nearly
I've watched them all year long, and there's something
missing.
They win. They find a way to win, but there's just something that hadn't been there. That's been there in the past.
But you're you grew up an athlete. Just winning is what it's all about.
That's right.
And that's what the Chiefs do. So
and if you can figure out a way to win the tough ones, well, there you go.
So here's a surprise.
I'm not happy about this.
Here's a surprise question.
And Andy Reid, by the way,
yeah.
If I was Jerry Jones, I'd go behind the scenes and say, Andy, what's it going to take for you to be a Dallas Cowboy coach?
Yeah. He's in my opinion, he's as good as there is out there.
That's how the Cowboys can get back to the Super Bowl.
He's good.
Yeah.
He is good.
I don't know who's going to end up there. Every day it's somebody
got
different.
Inkling? Do you want it to be Dion? Do you want what kind of coach do you want in there? Schottenheimer, the little shot.
I want the guy
already...
that they'll never have, because they'll never have the guy that can go in there and do what Jimmy Johnson did, and say, I need this guy. I'm going to trade you for 8 picks with Minnesota Vikings. I love you, Herschel, but there's, they're never going to get that guy. They're going to stick with familiarity. They're going to stick with the short-term, 3 to 4 year contract. They're never going to fire you. They're not going to buy you out. They'll ride it for 4 and you're gone. That's Jerry Jones.
Interesting, yeah.
That's about as that's about as good as you can put it. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I want to see. Yeah, I think you go Dion. I think you just try it and see what happens. You know what I mean? He's a motivator of men and college kids. He gets kind of the whole. Maybe controlled chaos is what I say. You know, I like to call it that, because that was chaos with Colorado. It is chaos, but maybe just try him and see what happens. It wouldn't
be. I mean, from if you look at their track record, it wouldn't be the stupidest thing they'd ever done.
No. It looks like Brian Schottenheimer though they're very serious about, and he's a bargain basement deal. You know, we're not talking one of these.
Prima donnas. Yeah, he's not a prima donna.
Yeah, 20 million. Yeah, so they do need. I don't know. I mean, McCarthy did a great job. Just didn't win the playoffs those 3 years when they won 12 games. You know?
Here's where Dion intrigues me. I think he could command instant respect in the locker room. He's been there. He's done it. He's excelled at it. I think he could relate to those players in a way that not everybody could.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, I think he could sit across the desk from Jerry Jones and say, boss, we got to do this. And I could see him being able to plead his case better and not afraid to do so, because he already knows the man. And good, bad, or indifferent, think whatever you want about him, you got to think about it's the Dallas Cowboys. and in that arena, you're under a microscope. I don't think the microscope necessarily applies as much to a Deion Sanders type guy.
Yeah,
because
he would have to build an incredible staff.
Yes,
you would you would need probably a high dollar DC and OC with Deion. Just kind of let Deion be a CEO type motivation. You know what I mean.
I like the Deion.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
It'd be a great choice.
I'm with you. They got to try something.
Why
different.
not try it?
Yeah.
I got to bring up one more thing with Carlton.
Yes.
This guy learned how to play a piano, and you ought to hear him go.
Wow.
I've heard him play with a band. I've heard him play by himself.
Well, how old were you when you learned?
I was a junior in high school.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Why?
I've just always listened to music. We had 45 records, record players, whatnot. Had the big record
These
players.
were the small records. Anybody out there listening that has never heard of a 45? Yeah,
45.
And the 33s.
It had the little hole in the middle, and you had to get them little yellow inserts and pop them in there to play them. And just listen. The music I listened to, Jerry Lee Lewis, Ray Charles, Fats Domino.
You didn't hear any of that in Dad's locker room ever, did you?
A little bit, but just I wanted to play the piano.
That's cool.
I thought I could, and I was looking in the Dumas paper one day, and there was a music company. I don't recall the name, but they was in Liberal, Kansas. They had a repossessed piano, and they were advertising it, I'm sure, in all the papers. It was take-up payments. It wasn't much. It was $20, $25, $30 a month. And I'm 16. I said, Mom, would you get that for me, and I'll make the payments? And she did.
Wow.
And
very cool.
I have a God's gifted talent for that a little bit. I mean, I'm not like classically trained. I can't read a note. I know what chords, and you say we're going to kick it off in the key of G. Okay, I can get there with you.
Wow.
But as far as any formal training, no.
So his son Taylor plays lead guitar in a band called Agave Posse, and lead singer in that group is my son-in-law's brother, and it'll be his cousin. Kyle is his cousin, and Kyla's parents live in Nazareth, and they built on this little place to their house. They call it the Piano Bar, and there's a piano back there. How old's that piano? 100 years old?
It's over 100 years old.
Yeah, and I've seen him go to town on that piano. It's a lot of fun, and
that's cool.
We keep saying one of these days we're gonna get up to my shop and where my drums are, and we're gonna have a little powwow. But the guy can play the piano. Let me tell you right now.
I love that.
I'll take my son, and we'll take the keyboard. And I've seen Jimmy sent me a little clip of him playing them drums. So
you guys can do that.
we'll
That'd
have
be
a
awesome.
little jam session at Jimmy's.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
I appreciate him coming. This is a guy that played for my dad and knew my dad when we were all growing up, and Dumas was a fun place back in those days to grow up, and the coaches that we had, I've talked about so many times through the years. It was a unique group of people.
It was.
Coach Spann, Coach Phillips, Coach Mallory, Dad, and that whole clan. You'll never see a group like we had back then together again.
I can remember every one of them.
Yep.
7th grade was Bill Tyner and Larry Grantham.
Yep.
8th grade, Don Phillips and Joe Pat Mowry. 9th grade, Bill Lackey, Leroy Bannister, but Leroy had a heart attack midway through my freshman year.
Was you a freshman that year?
I was a freshman.
I was in
when
6th
Leroy
grade.
died.
Wow.
Had a heart attack in the classroom.
Wow.
Mom was a school nurse.
It was tough.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
It was tough on the kids. But anyway, all them, then high school, you got your Gary Wards, Bill Spann, and then we had a new coach came my senior year, a whole new staff, Jack Moss. He kind of changed the color.
Is that when y'all got to wear the burnt orange?
It's when they kind of drifted into the burnt orange.
Did you like that?
I'm not so hard-headed. I'm not going to say, you got to change or you're never going to change.
Yeah, that's true.
At some point, you're going to have to change.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth making a big deal out of.
Yep.
And
So what year would have that been when you guys graduated?
I graduated in 1977. He probably graduated in 1980.
80.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so grateful I wasn't a sophomore when he was a senior. Sophomores took a beating from the seniors.
Yeah.
But his dad, my first exposure to his dad, Coach Bill Lackey, in 8th grade, I had a class that was called Dumas Junior High Introduction to Algebra. And Coach Lackey taught that class.
Wow.
And he told us right up front, he goes, okay, we're going to do our best. There's so much to get done in this class, but I promise you, one day a week, we're not going to do nothing but tell stories. And because he played at LSU.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He had some great stories.
That's cool.
All through that, all up through there, and he was just awesome. The only thing I didn't like about that guy is he would get up to this blackboard, okay, and do these algebra equations, and he would stand about that far from the blackboard. And he was a stocky, he wasn't all that like giant tall, but he was a stocky man. He was a chunk. And he would write just like this, and that hand would be going 100 miles an hour, and he'd be walking right across the blackboard with that equation, and you couldn't see half of it until he got to the end. But the bad part, when he got to the end, there was eraser.
Yep.
He went, hope everybody got that.
I had that same class,
gone,
and that is 100% accurate.
It was gone.
Real quick, the legend of Don Haskins, was he still, coached in Dumas, obviously, UTEP, the Glory Road movie, the first guy to ever start 5 African Americans in an NCAA game. Did that impact you guys at all?
Not really. No, he and Dad were good friends.
Yeah.
Coach
That's what I thought.
Coach Haskins coached in Quail.
Yeah.
And Dad's parents
Hartley
lived
or Headley right
Yep.
before.
Dad's parents lived in Wellington, so they were good friends. We actually coached Haskins. This is a true story. My sophomore year in college, a buddy of mine, his dad was going to let us take their Winnebago to Padre Island for spring break. We've been planning this for months. 2 weeks before, Mom called and said, "Hey, Dad wants us to go to El Paso, and we're going to go over to Las Cruces." I said, "Well, I'm going on a trip with my buddies." "No, you're going with us." This is my sophomore year in college. I'm supposed to go to Padre Island. So they come and pick me up, and we take off to El Paso and spent some time there. But Coach Haskins had invited Dad. They were in the first regional. It was being held at New Mexico State. And so we drove over to Las Cruces to watch that round because Dad and Coach Haskins were like, they were good friends because of their relationships back in the day when my grandparents lived in Wellington. Coach was over there, and then obviously when he came to Dumas, Dad knew him, and then he went from Dumas to UTEP. So yeah. But by the time I was up in age,
Right. I was just curious. Yeah,
not a big
Coach
effect.
Lackey also held the secret recipe to the Doggy Day seasoning for the annual Doggy Days barbecue.
Yeah, when my dad died.
So was that handed down to him?
He gave that to me for safekeeping, I guess maybe is the best way to put it. And I gave that to Chris Sheldon and his dad to make sure that it was in place when things happened. And when Dad passed, Chris had it. And I don't know where it's gone from then. But
Chris Sheldon, mutual acquaintance, but he's my son Taylor that he said played the guitar. That's his father-in-law.
Okay.
Chris and I graduated high school
That's
together.
pretty cool.
But yes,
so when you go up to Doggy Days, that's
when you go to meat wrap, the week before when they do the big meat wrap, they have this seasoning. Dad used to mix it in 17-gallon galvanized tubs. It'll make your nose run, and it's got every seasoning under the sun in it. But they made it by the tub full, and those brisket clods come through, and you roll them in it, and then they wrap them, and they're wrapped for a week before they go in the pit.
Oh my gosh!
And so it's a process.
It's
interesting, but that seasoning was the key to it. And I don't know how many times it had been handed down, but Dad had it forever and gave it to me years before. And
we've still got some.
Yeah.
Everybody, they'd make so much of it that at the end of the celebration, after they cooked and everything, there would be, bring a big old shaker or a quart jar, and we'll give you some of that. And I think my son still has some.
Yeah, you don't care if it had meat rolled in it or not. That was going to kill
really
off by the time all the salt got a hold of it. But
it was good.
Yeah, it was good stuff. Man, I appreciate you coming
times.
today.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
yeah, we're really.
I know you wanted to meet Lance. I'm glad y'all got to meet one another.
I've enjoyed the stories.
I did want to meet Lance because I've seen Lance. I've known who he was. We covered football. I've seen him. My wife grew up and graduated from Stratford.
Yes.
And I've seen you at several. Stratford had a pretty good run in the 2000s.
Yeah.
2000, 2005, 2008.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I've seen you at several of them games, and I always read your column.
I appreciate that.
And always thought you did a good job. I hate to see stuff like that go away.
Yeah. No, I mean, it touches my heart, too. We just mentioned it real quick. 38 years, blood, sweat, and tears. It's like, you at Diamond Shamrock, you know what I mean? You put your life into that, and then it's nothing now, you know what I mean? It's just like, wow. It's kind of – I will say this. Even kids today, their parents will tell them, man, when I got up on Saturday morning, all those games were in there. And
they were there.
They go, that would be – even kids of today say, if I could see that all in one place, it would be cool and all those
there.
They were there. They were there, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Eddie Metcalf, Brad Thiessen. Eddie Metcalf, the polar bear, man.
Eddie and I were freshmen together at WT, lived in the dorm together, been friends ever
Short sleeve.
since.
Were you impressed or not when he?
I've never seen anything like it because we actually moved to Stratford to help with my wife's mom and dad was facing some health issues. I lived in Stratford from 2004 to 2011.
Okay, yeah.
That 7-year span, I lived in Stratford. Oh, Eddie Metcalf, the only thing I've ever seen him wear, I've seen him put on a long sleeve T-shirt under a blue Stratford shirt.
Yeah.
And coach a game, and maybe he might wear gloves, he might not.
Yeah.
That was it. Nothing on his head, nothing over his ears. And, I mean, there's some games that are pretty brutal.
I saw one out of Dick Bivens once that was not that long ago at the end of his career. But, I mean, I was like, he is in his short sleeves. No. And they said, I guess maybe you can confirm this, that when he's out there shoveling snow, he's in shorts and maybe a long sleeve tee.
He did. He basically –
he might be worth having on
the ground crew. He was the ground crew at Sam Bass Stadium in Stratford. He plowed up the field, reseeded it every summer, changed the water.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a real quick story about Eddie. We were freshmen together and lived in the dorm together. That's how I met him. But his mom, Ann, from Panhandle, was very instrumental early on in Kids Inc., getting kiddos from Panhandle in that area to come over and play in our sports programs. I can tell you where he gets that toughness from. He gets that from his mom. You bet he does.
Yeah.
You bet he does. Yep.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah. That's just he is a great guy. So yeah. Well, Carlton, hey, we can't thank you enough for coming in, man.
Man, I appreciate it.
It was great meeting you as well. So
I've enjoyed
love
it.
those Dumas stories. Love those Dumas stories, man. Yeah. I've got to come listen to you play though. I'm jealous.
Well, maybe
God did not
Jimmy
give me a voice. I lip sync in church. That's how bad I sing.
That's all right.
Okay, I really do. I mean, I am the worst singer ever.
Joyful noise. That's what they told me.
It is an unjoyful noise when it comes out of my mouth,
sir.
Unfortunately. But I love music. I really do. So I appreciate
Jimmy
it.
to going on them drums.
Yeah.
Let's maybe he'll invite us to the back.
We've had one act at the shop already. We had Ansley up one time.
Well, that's going to be hard to beat right there.
She's tough. This is Chad, the lead singer in the band I was telling about, his daughter.
Yeah.
She's 16 years old.
She's powerful.
She is phenomenal.
That's cool.
She is.
Yeah.
But
well, hey, let's hop out of here. Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
man.
Matty.
Thanks
Absolutely.
for listening in to the Fieldhouse.
Yes, sir.
Hey, we are going to hop out of here. This was the Fieldhouse Podcast, and like I always say, it's a production of the Kids Inc. Sport Network, and we'll see you when we see you.